After nursing her sick white moonlight, Aka her ultimate crush, my secretly married lawyer wife finally remembered that today is our wedding anniversary. But when she rushed home, all she found was a freshly printed divorce agreement. What she never saw coming in her wildest dreams was that the person processing it was actually her own coworker. When she furiously stormed in to interrogate her colleague about why he didn't notify her beforehand, the answer she got left her absolutely speechless. "I had no idea Mr. Callahan was your husband. Haven't you been claiming to be single this whole time? Hello? I'd like to order one divorce, please. This is our 3rd year of marriage. I've decided to pull the plug, however. I didn't let her in on this little secret. Sitting in the law firm, I kept my voice low as I explained my business. The lawyer sitting opposite me looked up, his tone flat but polite. If you want a divorce, we need both parties to sign the divorce agreement. Then, once the 1-month cooling-off period is over, it's done. Is your wife not here today?" I stayed silent for a few dramatic seconds. Then I spoke up. "I'll get her to sign it." "All right then, I'll draft a divorce agreement for you first." It didn't take long to draft the document, but to me, that moment felt like an entire century. Taking the freshly printed divorce agreement, my heart sank inch by inch. Stepping out of the elevator, I walked downstairs with my head bowed. My brain was playing a montage of every little detail from this marriage, thinking that once she signed it, we'd be completely finished. But right at that moment, I heard a voice that was way too familiar. "Callahan? What are you doing at the law firm?" I jerked my head up and locked eyes with her. Serafina, with those peach blossom eyes that could x-ray a soul. My heartbeat missed a beat for absolutely no good reason. She was a lawyer here and I came here to divorce her. Talk about cosmic irony. But luckily she didn't recognize a thing, mostly because she had never really paid any real attention to me anyway. I shoved down my nervousness and put on my best poker face, just consulting about some stuff. "Oh right, the property transfer documents Mom and Dad talked about are ready. Just need your signature." I flipped the divorce agreement in my hand to the very last page, pressed it against the front desk and handed her the pen. The last page of this agreement only had the signature line. Serafina, being the professional lawyer she is, frowned a bit. Obviously, her occupational instincts made her want to flip through the contents, but in that exact millisecond, a figure appeared at the elevator. Her attention was instantly magnetized to him. She was just like before, looking at him with absolute tenderness, while treating me like background furniture. She hesitated for merely a second before hastily scribbling down her name. "Done! Go home first if there's nothing else. I have work to do." I nodded, the giant boulder in my heart finally hitting the ground. She still didn't realize that what she just signed was a divorce agreement. If she had just paid an ounce of attention to the content, she could have busted me on the spot. But her mind wasn't on me at all. 100% of her attention was given to the guy who had just walked through the door, Valerian. I looked at that handsome, well-dressed face, then looked at the soft glow in her eyes, and my heart felt like a blender full of mixed emotions. The document in my hand was crumpled from my grip. I turned around and walked out of the law firm without looking back. The moment the automatic glass doors slid shut, I vaguely heard her telling her assistant, a new client, "He's here to consult about a divorce." Her tone was as cool and distant as ever. Only when she spoke to Valerian did her voice turn to mush. "Give me a few minutes. Big sister will take you out for a nice meal, okay?" I looked down at the agreement in my hand, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of my lips. Yeah, I really was here to consult about a divorce. Except, it wasn't just a consultation anymore. It was an execution. Just 1 month. Once this cooling-off period is over, she'll be free. And whatever was between us will truly be dead and buried. Serafina and I had a hidden marriage, stealth mode. Besides our parents, nobody knew we were husband and wife. Not even her precious white moonlight crush knew. The hidden marriage was her brilliant idea. I didn't hesitate. You could even say I agreed with pathetic eagerness. Even in that moment, I knew full well she had never truly loved me. We were college classmates. I fell for her at first sight on the very first day of school. She was the campus goddess in everyone's eyes, calm, collected, and a straight-A student. Sadly, she was always lukewarm towards me. I chased her for 4 years, and all I got in return was polite distance, but I didn't feel too bad about it, because she never said yes to anyone else either. I didn't lose to another guy. She just didn't want to date. Or more bluntly, she just wasn't into men. At least, that's what I kept telling myself to feel better. Until graduation, when we went our separate ways. She went to grad school, and I started working. We had zero contact. I honestly thought my crush on her would just fade away with time, but as luck would have it, 3 years later, at an arranged blind date, I saw her again. She sat there, looking as aloof as ever, her gaze so detached it made my heart skip a beat. "Do you want to get married?" she asked, cutting straight to the chase. I was a bit shocked, but secretly thrilled. She was being so proactive. Her family must be pressuring her hard, right? Either way, the girl I liked suddenly wanted to marry someone, and that someone was me. How could I say no? And so we got married. I thought I had caught a meat pie falling from the sky. Little did I know, it was just her hasty exit strategy to hide from her old heartbreak. After marriage, I slowly figured it out. It wasn't that she was immune to men. It was just that her heart was already occupied. That guy was her best friend's younger brother, Valerian. She was 5 years older than him and always called him little brother. But I'm not blind. That suppressed restraint of hers? That wasn't sisterly love. She had liked him for a very long time, but right after graduation, he married his girlfriend of 3 years. She was heartbroken. Under the dual pressure from her parents and her emotional trauma, she hastily chose me as the emotional band-aid. The night I found out the truth, I drank myself into a total stupor. I thought I would give up. I even gave her the cold shoulder for a while. But a few days later, I compromised again like an idiot. I told myself, we have a long time ahead. As long as I'm sincere enough, she'll notice me eventually. So, I worked my butt off at my job while trying my hardest to maintain this home. I tried to get closer to her, to make her get used to me, but she was always so distant. Even though we had been married for 3 years, I still hadn't found any real presence in her heart. I started to wonder what the point of my persistence even was. Until that day, when I accidentally stumbled upon that photo album of hers. A complete timeline of a boy growing up from age 6 to 25. Every single photo was meticulously organized. It's not that I haven't seen her being meticulous before, but this kind of meticulousness reeked of deep emotion. It reeked of obsession. I couldn't pretend I didn't care. Especially that one night, when she rarely drank a ton of alcohol. She was a girl who normally never touched a drop, but that day she got blackout drunk. Her eyes were shining with an almost childlike joy. I asked her what happened. She just smiled and said nothing. I did some digging and found out. Oh, Valerian just got divorced. At that moment, I finally understood. The window to her heart had never, ever been opened for me. I was just a placeholder she used to run away from her feelings. But now, the man she deeply loved was back on the market. I laughed at how stupid I was. So, I made a decision to completely end this marriage that was destined to never get a response. When she signed that divorce agreement earlier today, I let out a massive sigh of relief. She signed it without even squinting at the contents. Her eyes were fully occupied by Valerian's sudden visit. I don't blame her. I volunteered for this mess. I expected too much. I went back to the house we had lived in for 3 years. Looking at this home I decorated with my own hands, I felt a whole cocktail of sadness. Standing in the living room, memories hit me like a tidal wave. Every frame had her in it. My eyes finally landed on our wedding photo. Her smile in that picture looked so forced. Suddenly, it felt incredibly ironic. I took the photo down and yeeted it straight into the dumpster downstairs. After that, I quietly and methodically sorted out all our property documents by myself. I just wanted to end this farce as quickly as humanly possible. When she came back, the very first thing she noticed was the empty spot where the photo used to be. She stood there looking at me, frowning, which was rare for her. She asked, sounding a bit hesitant, "Where's the wedding photo?" The nail got loose. I took it down so it wouldn't fall on anyone's head. Serafina didn't ask any more questions. She placed the late-night takeout bag she brought next to my hand and turned to go into the study. Smelling the spicy aroma, I stopped what I was doing. I opened the bag, saw the violently red, spicy midnight snack inside, and felt a painful sting in my nose. Married for 3 years, and because of my stomach issues, I've always eaten bland food. But my lovely wife literally had no clue. If it were the old me, just to make her happy, I would have eaten every last bite, even if it burned a hole in my stomach. But the current me? I just grabbed the whole bag, walked downstairs, and tossed it in the trash. Starting today, I am tossing away every grievance in this marriage, every bit of sadness, and yes, I am tossing her away too. It was late into the night, but I was tossing and turning, completely unable to sleep. I buried my head in the pillow, my thoughts a tangled mess. Right then, a cool hand suddenly wrapped around my waist. It ghosted over my back, carrying that familiar scent slowly reaching forward. Her breath brushed the back of my ear. It was familiar, but it made me instinctively scoot outward. I dodged the kiss she was about to drop. The movement behind me paused. A moment later, she whispered, "In a bad mood?" I kept my eyes closed and casually tossed out a lie. "Stomachac, I want to rest." She didn't press it, just gave a soft and quietly leaned against my back. I thought she was going to sleep, but then she suddenly asked out of nowhere, "That property contract you mentioned today? Let me see it. I want to make sure there are no loopholes." My eyes snapped open. My heart went into overdrive, pounding like it got hit by a truck. She actually wants to read it? I panicked a bit, but I couldn't say no without looking sus. "You really want to read it?" She looked up at me, a hint of confusion in her eyes, but nodded anyway. I stayed silent for a moment before finally getting up. I went to the study and dug out that property agreement, which was in reality our divorce agreement. Just as I was walking back to the bedroom with the document, ready to hand it to her, her phone suddenly rang. "Sister Serafina, Cassandra got drunk and is causing a scene outside again. Come quick!" The male voice on the other end was panicked and frantic. I heard it loud and clear. Her face changed instantly. While still on the phone, she was already grabbing her coat. Watching her swift action movie-ready movements, I couldn't help but say, "Is it your getting divorced little brother causing trouble again?" She paused her steps, glanced back at me, and, as if afraid I'd overthink it, spoke with more seriousness than usual. "It's his ex-wife making a scene. She's drunk and blocking his door with a knife. I have to take the bodyguards over to check on him. It'll be a disaster if something happens." I didn't say anything else, just nodded. "All right, be careful then." The moment the door clicked shut, it felt like all the energy had been vacuumed out of me. I collapsed back onto the bed. I didn't sleep a wink that whole night. When the sky started getting light, I grabbed my phone to check the time, but accidentally swiped into my social media feed. Right at the top was a new video posted by Valerian, whose account I had secretly added 2 days ago. In the video, a red sun was slowly rising over the mountains, casting golden rays everywhere. People were gasping, people were cheering. When the camera panned across, I saw her, Serafina. She stood in the crowd, her face bathed in a gentle golden morning light. She was smiling, that relaxed, long-lost kind of smile. The dark yesterday is over, everything will welcome a new life. The video ended on that poetic caption. I stared blankly at the screen, my chest feeling like it took a sledgehammer. It hurt like hell, but I had nowhere to vent it. Valerian had finalized his divorce. With her pulling the strings, how could he not succeed? Serafina was always efficient and decisive. He was the guy she had loved for so many years. If he needed anything, she would back him up 100% without reservation. She never belonged to me in the first place. Now that the right person was single again, I was nothing more than a transition phase during her emotional gap year. She wouldn't tell me, but I could already picture the scene. She would gently tell me she wanted to end our marriage and start over. I would nod and grant her wish. I gave a bitter laugh and slammed my phone face down on the nightstand. My mind flashed back to the way she signed the last page of that agreement without a second thought. So this is what real letting go looks like. It's so effortless. She didn't even glance at it. Even if it wasn't a property contract but a divorce agreement, I had already made the choice for her in advance. Instead of waiting for her to bring it up, it was better for me to end it myself. Taking the initiative to let go at least left me a shred of dignity, so I wouldn't look too pathetic when it happened. I put my phone down, stood up, and started packing all the couple-themed junk we had bought over the years. Matching keychains, mugs, toothbrush cups, pajamas. Things I used to cherish too much to throw away were now being chucked into a cardboard box without a single second of hesitation. Once it was full, I lugged the box downstairs. It was so heavy it practically made my fingers go numb. Just as I reached the ground floor, I bumped into her coming back. She immediately saw me struggling and walked briskly over. "Why are you throwing away so much stuff?" I kept my head down, my voice flat. "We don't use it anyway. Might as well toss it so it doesn't take up space." She nodded, didn't ask further, and even bent down to help me lift the box. I stood to the side, watching her take the garbage from my hands, and along with it, the last bit of my testing the waters. Her silhouette quickly moved away, walking briskly and decisively, just like her personality. Honestly, if she had just opened that cardboard box, she would have known exactly what I was doing. If she had just taken one look at those gifts she gave me, the knickknacks we bought together on special anniversaries that I had treasured, she would have known this wasn't just some Marie Kondo decluttering session. With her intellect, she could have easily read my mind. I was preparing to leave. The story could have had a plot twist. If she had just asked one question, looked back just once, or even hesitated for a second. But she didn't. She didn't even open the box. I watched her back disappear from my line of sight, my eyes completely devoid of any emotion. Then, I turned around and dumped the box into the neighborhood trash can. And with it, I firmly shut the door on the last tiny sliver of possibility. No nostalgia, and nothing worth being nostalgic over. That afternoon, my laptop suddenly crashed. Seeing the mountain of files I still had to organize, I had no choice but to walk into Serafina's study to borrow her laptop. She didn't say anything and just handed it to me. I sat down, plugged in my hard drive, and while waiting for the files to transfer, a pop-up message appeared on her screen. I didn't think much of it and instinctively clicked it. "Serafina, law firm dinner tonight. Want to bring your boyfriend?" My finger froze. I flinched almost involuntarily. 3 years. We've been married for 3 solid years. She had never revealed our relationship to outsiders. In everyone else's eyes, she was the aloof, beautiful, golden-tier lawyer of the firm. Single, the target of countless secret crushes. And because of this single status, I was able to show up at her firm a few days ago to ask about a divorce, and nobody suspected a thing. This time, would she take me? I didn't know, and I didn't dare to hope. While I was staring blankly at the message, Serafina glanced up at me, as if analyzing my expression. I immediately snapped out of it and plastered on a calm smile. "Are you going to take me to the party?" My tone was super casual, like a joke, but only I knew how much suppressed grievance was hiding underneath that question. It was actually a variation of another question. "We've been married for 3 years. When are you going to admit I'm your husband?" She opened her mouth, but not a single word came out. That second of silence stabbed deeper than any words could. I looked away, forcing my smile to look even more relaxed, pretending I couldn't care less. "I'm busy tonight anyway. Even if you wanted to take me, I probably wouldn't have the time." She breathed a sigh of relief, looking as if a burden had been lifted. "Then next time there's a chance, I'll take you." I didn't reply. I rested my hand on my forehead, hiding my eyes in the shadows. To her next time, I quietly replied in my head, "Serafina, there isn't going to be a next time." That night, I didn't go out. I stayed home packing my things, occasionally checking my phone until I saw the group photo she posted on her feed. She was smiling, looking polite and elegant, and standing right next to her was Valerian. I stared at that guy's side profile for a long time, suddenly finding it kind of hilarious. She still chose him, huh? I thought she would at least hesitate, struggle, or show a bit of restraint. But nope, I didn't blame her. I was just too stupid, thinking 3 years of marriage could buy me a little bit of affection, a tiny bit of weight in her heart. Around 10 p.m. I got a call. It was Mr. Sterling from the law firm, saying he had an emergency and begging me to drop by downstairs to pick up a document for him since I was driving by. I agreed and drove over. Who knew the first thing I'd see at the entrance was her? She was standing under the streetlights, squinting at me, holding the exact document I was supposed to pass to Mr. Sterling. Her face was a chaotic mix of emotions I couldn't decipher. Divorce property settlement agreement. Callahan, what is the meaning of this? I paused for a second, then quickly adjusted my emotions, speaking calmly. It's Thorns. He's getting a messy divorce lately and asked me for advice. I booked Mr. Sterling for him. I looked her dead in the eye, delivering every word as cool as a cucumber. She didn't speak, just stared at me, looking like she wanted to x-ray my brain. She frowned and was just about to flip open the agreement to peek inside when a hand reached out from behind her and linked around her arm. Sister Serafina, weren't you just going to meet a client? What took you so long? Seeing Valerian cling to her so intimately, Serafina instantly panicked. She was totally flustered, not daring to look at my expression, let alone knowing how to explain. But compared to explaining, she clearly dreaded pushing away the Valerian who was actively getting close to her right now. I, however, was way calmer and cooler than she expected. I took 2 steps forward, smoothly snatched the agreement from her hands, gave a slight bow, and spoke with polite distance. Thank you, Lawyer Lou. My friend and I are busy dealing with his divorce, so we won't interrupt you any further. The night breeze blasted through the car window, making my thoughts a mess. I didn't roll the window up, let the cold wind freeze my chest. It actually kept me awake. The image of Valerian standing next to Serafina kept stabbing my brain like a needle on repeat. She smiled at him. He reached out to shield her from a splash of spilled drinks from the noisy crowd next to them. They really did look like a perfect match. I didn't even feel heartbroken anymore. Maybe I'd been numbed by her endless neglect. Right now, I was just exhausted to the bone. Why is a 30-day cooling-off period so damn long? So long it made me feel like this whole cooling-off thing was just a fancy excuse to give people a dignified way to say goodbye. I rubbed my eyes. They were stinging. I didn't notice the car in front of me suddenly doing an illegal reverse maneuver. Bang! My car smashed right into it. The momentum whipped me forward violently. The moment the airbag deployed, my brain went entirely blank. By the time I came to, the agonizing pain in my leg made it almost impossible to move. I looked down. The crumpled car door had pinned my calf. Blood was pouring down my pant leg. It hurt like a mother, but I still had to stay chill. With trembling hands, I fished my phone out of my pocket and dialed emergency services. Not long after, the ambulance arrived. The doctor checked me over and said it wasn't fatal, but I needed immediate surgery to clean and stitch the wound, and I needed a signature from a direct family member. Can you contact a family member? The doctor asked. I nodded, grabbed my phone, and dialed Serafina. No answer. I dialed again and again, a dozen calls in a row. She didn't pick up a single one. I stared at the screen, the row of missed call notifications mocking me. What was she so busy with? The law firm party just ended, right? She's probably with her friends, her colleagues, and that Valerian she's been pining over for years. Drinking, laughing, talking about dreams and life. Of course she didn't have time to take my call. Sir, can your wife really not come? The nurse beside me asked tentatively. I shook my head gently, my tone freakishly calm. We're already divorced. Just a dozen days left until it's officially over. The nurse froze, clearly not expecting this plot twist. But you're still in the cooling off period, right? Legally, you're still married. Just ask her to come sign the paper. Surely she can do that? I didn't reply immediately. I just gave a small, bitter smile. 3 years of marriage. Not too long, not too short. But I remembered every pathetic, people-pleasing thing I ever did. Just to wait for her to come home for dinner after work, I sat alone at the dining table until 1 a.m. Just to have something to talk to her about, I chewed my way through 2 massive volumes of the Civil Code. And the reward? A dismissive, "You're an amateur, stop talking nonsense," shutting me up completely. I used to prepare so many surprise gifts, just hoping to buy a single smile from her. She just said she was too tired and didn't have the energy. Everything I thought was putting effort into our relationship was just an annoyance to her. In 3 years, she never truly stopped her tracks for me, not even for a day. I used to think, if I didn't say anything, maybe she'd still care about me deep down. But now she couldn't even be bothered to pick up a phone call. A wife who can't be reached when her husband gets into a car crash. What's the point of her coming anyway? I said. My voice so light I sounded like I was narrating someone else's tragic biography. Hearing this, the nurse sighed, her eyes full of pity. Then call a friend. For the next few days, Thorn was the one taking care of me at the hospital. I thought Serafina would never show up. Plot twist. On the 4th day, she actually appeared at my ward's door. Seeing her, my heart did do a tiny little flip, not out of joy, but out of some indescribable exhaustion. She looked at the bandages on my ankle, confusion flashing across her face. You got into a car crash? Why didn't you tell me? I almost said. I did. I called you a dozen times. But the words reached my lips, and I just smiled, swallowing them back down. You're busy. I didn't want to bother you with a minor injury. She went quiet for a few seconds. Maybe she actually felt guilty? She looked down, trying to explain. Callahan, that day I just bumped into Valerian by coincidence. Don't overthink it. I looked at her, smiling, my heart a flat line of emotion. Is his divorce finalized? She obviously froze, then nodded. It's done, he's divorced. I let out a soft chuckle. Well, Well, congratulations to him. I hope my process can go that smoothly too. She didn't seem to catch the hint in my words. She was just about to speak when her phone rang. She checked the caller ID, hesitated, then got up and went to the hallway to take it. The second she left, I finally felt like I could breathe again. For 3 years, when was I not walking on eggshells, monitoring her mood before speaking? Even when I was bitter, wronged, and heartbroken, all I could say was, I'm fine. After she left, I picked up a call from Thorn. Just as we were discussing that the divorce cooling-off period only had 15 days left, the door clicked open. Divorce cooling-off period? Who's getting a divorce? I instinctively looked up and met her shocked face. I didn't expect her to come back so fast, let alone hear that. Thank God Thorn had impeccable timing and walked in right then. I suppressed my panic, pointed at Thorn and said, he's getting a divorce. Thorn was confused for a hot second but was smart enough to play along, nodding vigorously. Yeah, it's me. Papers are filed. She wasn't close with Thorn, so she couldn't aggressively grill him, but she still frowned. If you're getting a divorce, why didn't you come to me? Thorn was at a loss for words, so I quickly jumped in to save the day. Weren't you super busy with your little brother's divorce case? I didn't want him to bother you. The moment Valerian was mentioned, she instantly lost her train of thought. She quickly wrapped up the conversation. Well, if you run into any legal issues, you can come to me. I didn't say a word. She's actually not stupid. If she paid even a tiny bit of attention to what was happening lately, she would have spotted the plot holes a mile away. But the moment Valerian is involved, her logic and judgment just unplugged themselves from the socket. I finally understood what they mean when they say love makes you blind. Watching her typing furiously on her phone, looking like she was sitting on hot coals, I started a mental countdown. 3, 2, 1. Boom. She stood up, making an excuse to leave. There's an emergency at the firm. I have to go to work. When are you getting discharged? I'll come pick you up. I know you won't come, I said in my head. She left. I waited from morning till night. The hospital door never opened. I grabbed my phone, opened my feed, and lo and behold, Valerian posted an update. Blue skies, white waves, beach selfies. He was smiling, looking totally stress-free. She was probably right there with him. I dialed her number. Before she even picked up, I could hear the sound of the ocean waves. Callahan, I'm out of town on a business trip right now. What's up? She completely forgot I was getting discharged today. Classic. It's always him who's important. And I'm just the umbrella she pulls out when she's lonely and needs shelter from the rain. But I've woken up. I don't want to be the guy standing behind her, silently waiting for her to turn around anymore. I didn't expose her lie. I didn't remind her either. I just casually asked like normal. When did you leave? How many days until you're back? Arrived the day before yesterday. Coming back tomorrow. Got it, I said blandly. Stay safe. After hanging up, I called an Uber myself. Standing at the hospital entrance, I pulled out my phone and checked the calendar. 10 days. 10 days left and I'll be free. This 3-year romantic delusion can finally wake up. Who cares if she didn't pick me up? I finally learned not to hold a grudge over someone who will never look back at you. Returning to this house, I had originally planned to move out immediately, completely cutting off this marriage that was basically a roommate situation. But my leg wasn't fully healed, making it hard to move around. I didn't feel like being a tough guy, so I just called a moving company to pack up. Cardboard boxes cluttered the living room. The movers were walking back and forth. The door was wide open. I sat on the sofa, quietly watching the home I painstakingly decorated being dismantled piece by piece. It was like watching a moment of silence for my dead marriage. Then, the familiar click-clack of high heels echoed from outside. She was back. Serafina stood at the doorway, looking as composed as ever. Only when she saw the chaotic mess in the living room did a tiny frown appear. What's going on? Why is there a moving company? I stood up, my voice completely devoid of any waves. The apartment at Jingyuan is renovated. It's closer to your law firm. Let's move there. It'll be more convenient. She seemed to recall that property agreement and nodded. She changed her shoes, walked in, and sat on the sofa as if trying to recall the layout of that apartment. Don't you like gardening? The east balcony gets good sunlight. You can use it to grow your flowers. I lowered my eyes, not looking at her. My tone was light, like a casual remark. No need. I'm not growing them anymore. Truth is, it's not that easy to quit a hobby, but I only grew those flowers for her. Now there's no point. She looked thoughtfully at the lilies on the coffee table. She had no idea I specially bought a fresh bouquet because I remembered she liked them. She asked again, why are they only packing my stuff? Where's yours? Already moved it out, I replied without a second of hesitation. She didn't seem to overthink it, probably assuming I just hauled my stuff to the new house early. She poured herself a glass of water and instructed the movers to check the labels so they wouldn't mix things up. I stayed quiet, just gave her a glance. Don't worry, there won't be any mix-ups. The new house only has your stuff. How could it get mixed up? I'm not cramming myself into your space ever again. I haven't belonged in your life for a long time. Once everything was packed, she naturally reached out to help me downstairs. The moment the elevator doors pinged open, before I could even take a step, I saw Valerian and his sister standing right there. Everyone froze. The air literally congealed for a solid few seconds. She instinctively let go of me, stepping forward to block me from their view. That reaction, I couldn't tell if it was instinct or just a reflex. What are you guys doing here? She asked. Valerian smiled and said they came to give her a surprise. He said Alara wanted to see the new house, and since he had never been there either, he got the address from her parents. I didn't move, nor did I spare him a second glance. I just sneered internally. Surprise? Yeah, this scene is definitely a surprise for me. He looked at me, looking like his brain was buffering, trying to remember who I was. He had seen me before, at the law firm. At the bar entrance, he stared at me and asked, "Sister Serafina, who is this gentleman?" She hesitated. I could see the gears turning in her head. She was carefully calculating how to introduce me. As an ordinary friend? Or someone who didn't even need an introduction? I didn't want to make things awkward for her, and I definitely didn't want to humiliate myself. So, I took the initiative, reached out my hand, flashed a polite customer service smile, and said, "Callahan, lawyer Lou's college classmate. I'm currently going through a divorce, so I came to my old classmate for some legal help." Didn't realize she was in the middle of moving. One sentence woke Serafina right up. She gave me a guilty look first, then rode the wave of my excuse to formally introduce us. Although everything seemed totally normal, Valerian still had a tiny sliver of doubt, but with so many people around, he couldn't interrogate me. He just urged his sister to help with the moving. Valerian sidled up next to me and started chatting me up. "Brother Callahan, why are you getting a divorce? I didn't expect him to be so chummy." After buffering for a few seconds, I gave a light smile. "My wife likes another man." Hearing we were in the same boat, Valerian instantly leveled up his sympathy stats and started consoling me. I went through the same thing. But it's fine. Once the divorce is finalized, everything will be okay. Sister Serafina will definitely help you get through this. Yeah, the hardest part was getting her signature. She's already helped me out with that. I nodded, playing along flawlessly. I heard she personally handled your case too. She must have put a lot of heart into it, huh? Valerian's face lit up with a smug, happy expression. His tone got super bouncy. Yeah, Sister Serafina helped me out big time. She helped me gather evidence to my ex-wife, and she even stayed by my side to protect my personal safety. If she hadn't brought bodyguards and stepped in, I might have been killed by that crazy ex-wife of mine. Watching him reminisce about his traumatic past with a face full of sheer sweetness, I blanked for a second before blurting out an incredibly inappropriate question. "Do you like Serafina?" Hearing this, Valerian completely stiffened. He struggled with himself for ages before stammering out, I don't know either. At first, I just saw her as an older sister. Since we were kids, she always took me out to play and took care of me. She'd buy me tons of gifts. When kids bullied me at school, she'd literally fight them and come back covered in bruises. When she found out I was divorced, she came to my door offering help. Later, I heard from my sister that Sister Serafina actually had a secret crush on me for a long time. She's such a high-status goddess. I never expected her to do the whole secret crush thing. I have no idea how she ended up liking a guy like me. Listening to him ramble on about their backstory, my feelings were a massive, complicated knot. From Valerian's mouth, I was introduced to a completely different version of Serafina. Turns out, she wasn't naturally cold-hearted. She just didn't like me. She wasn't passive about everything. I just wasn't the guy who could activate her proactive mode. Too bad I fell too deep and realized it way too late. Wasted so many years of my life on her for absolutely nothing. Lost in his own nostalgia, Valerian totally missed my incredibly meaningful expression. After this heart-to-heart, he had already upgraded me to trustworthy bro status. He gathered his courage and poured out a question that had been bugging him for a while to me. A guy he had literally just met a few times. "Brother Callahan, what do you think of Sister Serafina?" I caught the subtext in Valerian's words. I looked up at the apartment that was almost completely emptied out and gave him the most honest review I could muster. I've known her for 10 years. But after recent interactions, I realized I don't know her at all. So I probably can't answer your question. However, what I can tell you is, this is the first time I've ever seen her like someone this much. Valerian nodded thoughtfully, looking like he just found inner peace. Seeing the sun starting to set, he grabbed me and insisted we all go grab dinner together. Serafina, who was just coming downstairs, heard this and froze on the spot, the word reluctant stamped in bold font across her forehead. Seeing her face, a faint smirk touched the corner of my lips. I rejected his invite. "I have things to do tonight. I won't crash your party." Serafina didn't even give the siblings a chance to react before shoving me into her car. "You guys go ahead. I'll drop him home and come find you later." The moving truck followed behind our car as we drove out of the complex. Serafina's heart was doing jumping jacks at the speed of the traffic lights, frantically brainstorming a semi-logical excuse to cover her tracks. I broke the suffocatingly weird atmosphere first, my tone perfectly chill. "No need to be so stressed. Didn't we agree before we got married? We'd keep it a secret from everyone except our parents until we felt it was the right time to go public. You're not ready now, I completely get it." Serafina took a deep breath, a hint of gratitude in her voice. "Thank you for understanding. Honestly, I'm slowly getting used to the fact that I'm married. Just give me a little more time and I promise I'll make it public." I let out a microscopic, and turned to look out the window. Married for 3 years and still not public. A little more time, huh? But I don't want to wait anymore. Who has that much time in one lifetime to waste? I'm exhausted. For the whole ride, I didn't say a single word. The scenery outside blurred past, but my heart felt like it was dragging an anchor. So heavy I could barely breathe. Beside me, Serafina kept glancing my way, like she wanted to say something but kept swallowing it down. I knew exactly what she was thinking. She'd been noticing my weird mood lately, but couldn't pinpoint the reason. So, she started rambling, reviewing everything that had happened recently, trying to find the bug in the system. I listened to her recap from the top, from being busy at work, to pulling all-nighters, to the cases at the firm, all the way to her precious little brother's divorce case. None of it had anything to do with me. I was just a spectator loitering on the fringes of her life. Finally, she seemed to reach a grand conclusion. My recent depression was because she was too busy and ignored me. I didn't speak. I didn't nod. A flash of guilt crossed her face. She made a remarkably rare initiative. It's almost our 3rd wedding anniversary. Let's go on a trip to relax. I knew she was trying to compensate. But what was the point of saying this now? The divorce cooling-off period only had a few days left. I didn't want any plot twists. So I pulled out an excuse. My leg's not fully healed. Traveling is too much of a hassle. She thought about it and agreed it made sense. Then she pitched a bunch of alternatives to appease me. An art exhibition, a candlelit dinner, a short day trip. I shot down every single one of them with bulletproof excuses. I really, truly didn't want to play happy married couple with her anymore. Noticing my glacial attitude, a look of pure confusion finally cracked her composed face. She probably still remembered that in the past, the second she suggested going out, I was always the first one grinning like a golden retriever. Afraid she'd get suspicious, I threw out a compromise. That day happens to be a weekend. Come with me for a walk around our old college campus. She froze, probably didn't expect me to bring that up, considering I'm not usually the sentimental type. But she didn't ask questions, just smiled and nodded. Okay. The car fell silent again. I pulled out my phone and checked the calendar. 2 dates sat right next to each other, like fate had scripted the whole thing. September 6th, our wedding anniversary, and the exact 10-year mark of my secret crush on her. September 7th, the divorce becomes official. Going back to our alma mater at a checkpoint like this felt like walking back to square one. A perfect period to end this decade-long one-sided love story. I stared at the screen for a long time, then suddenly laughed, asking with a touch of self-deprecation, "This time you won't flake on me, right?" She raised her eyebrows, a rare smile tugging at her lips. "When have I ever flaked on you? Callahan, don't slander me." I didn't reply, just turned to look out the window. I silently listed them out in my head. Last time you said you'd pick me up from the hospital. Instead, you went to the beach with Valerian to watch the sunrise, leaving me stranded. The time before that, you promised to celebrate my birthday. Instead, you ran off to help him gather evidence, claiming you were too tired and forgot. The time before that, we agreed to visit my hometown together. He went through a breakup, so you went to drink with him and dumped me in the middle of nowhere, time and time again. As long as it involved him, you magically remembered. And I was always the one who got memory wiped from your schedule. It wasn't about flaking, it was a priority issue, and I was permanently ranked below him. For the next week, she didn't come home. Every morning, the first thing I did was rip a page off the calendar. I was alone in this big, empty house. I packed up the last few things of mine as if I was boxing up the past, preparing a quiet farewell for the me who was about to leave. Time flew by in a blur. September 6th arrived. I woke up early, specifically shaved clean, put wax in my hair, and put on that old white button-down shirt. It was a gift from her a few years ago. Very ordinary, but I knew she once said it was her favorite look on me. Today is our anniversary, and the 10th anniversary of my crush on her. I packed my camera into my backpack, planning to snap a few photos around campus, just to close the book on this ridiculously long one-sided romance. When I went downstairs, she was already waiting. Seeing me walk out, she eagerly opened the car door for me, just like the old days, her tone super soft. Maybe it was because I knew we were about to be liberated, but my mood was surprisingly zen, even a bit cheerful. I started chatting with her about college nostalgia. She slowly relaxed and even volunteered to take extra photos of me, saying today was worth remembering. I smiled and nodded, flawlessly concealing all the bubbling emotions. The car quickly arrived at the gates of B University. I got out first and stood by the window waiting for her. She had just unbuckled her seatbelt when her phone chimed a few times. I didn't plan on caring, but she took forever to get out of the car, so I couldn't help but look back. Her hand hovered over her phone, hesitation practically oozing from her eyes. I had no idea what message she read, but my chest started tightening. A few seconds later, she looked up at me and said, "Callahan, there's a sudden emergency at the law firm. I have to rush over." I froze. Today is our freaking anniversary. She wasn't actually planning to just bounce, was she? I tried to keep her. "Can you go an hour later?" She paused, then shook her head decisively. "It's very important." "Probably not," I smiled. Didn't ask anything else. I'm not an idiot. Her eyes, her tone. I saw right through it. 99% chance it was for her precious little brother again. But right now I had zero energy left to expose her, argue with her, or try to prove anything. I let go of the car door, took a step back, and watched her settle back into the driver's seat. Maybe she felt a tiny bit guilty because she threw out her classic empty promise. "Take a cab home first. Once I'm done with these busy days, I'll come with you, okay? We can even invite some of our old professors to dinner." I didn't respond. She probably didn't know this was our last time. I watched her drive away until the car completely disappeared from view. In that moment, I looked up at the sky. The sunlight was a bit blinding. I squinted, pulled the camera out of my bag, and walked alone into the gates of our alma mater. 30 minutes. It took me 30 minutes to walk through every single place where I once felt butterflies, expectations, and fantasies. The classroom, the track field, the library, the park bench. and that sycamore tree where I first saw her standing underneath, memorizing vocabulary words. I snapped photos one by one, not to remember her but to say goodbye to myself. On the way home, I hailed a cab. I sat in the back seat silent. The driver asked where I was going. I gave him an address. Going home. Yeah, it was time to go home. Back to the home that only had me in it. The second I walked through the door, a notification popped up on my phone. New update in moments. I clicked it. The very first post was from Valerian. A photo of a hospital bed. He was under the covers, looking pale. The caption was simple: fever hit 39 degrees. But luckily, someone is here with me. In that exact second, I finally understood what the law firm emergency she just received actually was. Turns out, it wasn't that she couldn't get away. It was just that I was never the person she couldn't get away from. In that moment, it was 100% confirmed. She wasn't doing overtime. She went to nurse a feverish Valerian. I stared at that hospital bed photo for a few seconds. Then I remembered her sitting in the car this morning solemnly swearing to me that the firm had an emergency. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. For him, she couldn't even spare half an hour for me. Serafina, did you ever wonder, if you knew these few hours were the absolute last moments we'd ever spend together, would you regret ditching me yet again? I shook my head. No, I didn't care about the answer anymore. I opened WeChat, found Mr. Sterling's chat, and typed, "Mr. Sterling, today is the last day of the divorce cooling off period. Do I need to come to the firm to process any paperwork?" Not long after, he replied, "No need, Mr. Callahan. Since today is the final day of your cooling off period, the whole process is officially complete. Congratulations on your rebirth." Those words looked pretty ironic on screen, but at this moment I felt ridiculously liberated. Yeah, starting today. Starting from not loving Serafina anymore. Starting from not expecting anything from her anymore. I, Callahan, will have my own brilliant, shining life. I smiled, locked my phone, and walked around the house. Countdown. 3 hours. I packed up the absolute last remaining items that belonged to me. I threw them out, piece by piece. No hesitation, no nostalgia. Countdown. 2 hours. I opened my laptop, exported the photos I took on campus this morning, and edited them into a memorial video. Me standing at the library entrance, me sitting on the track field bench, me leaning against that sycamore tree where we first met. But she wasn't in any of the photos. These memories didn't need her anymore. Countdown. 1 hour. The video was done. I watched it once, picked up my camcorder, hit record, and slowly spoke into the lens. That was my final letter to her. No blame, no crying, just calmly saying, "Serafina, our 10 years ends here." After recording, I popped the SD card back into the camera and placed it on the bedroom nightstand. Right next to it, I placed the signed divorce agreement. With everything perfectly arranged, I grabbed my final suitcase and walked out the front door. I didn't look back. I had no intention of ever looking back. Serafina, from this second on, we are officially divorced. I wish you happiness, and I wish myself freedom. Meanwhile, on the other side, it wasn't until Valerian was mostly recovered that Serafina finally left his place. While driving, she called Callahan, wanting to fulfill her previous promise. But she called over 10 times, and the only response was the robotic, "The subscriber you dialed is powered off." She sent messages but got 0 replies. In their 3 years of marriage, this was the first time Serafina couldn't reach him. Remembering his recent car accident, she couldn't help but panic. She busted a U-turn and rushed back home. In the new house, everything was arranged perfectly according to the old layout. It wasn't a chaotic pile anymore. But with just one glance, Serafina noticed something was horribly wrong. Callahan's stuff, she couldn't see a single item of his. Realizing this, her heart skipped a massive beat. She frantically rushed back to the old house. The entire house was completely empty. She searched inside and out, but there was no sign of anyone. Finally, she walked into the bedroom. On the nightstand, she saw a camcorder and a stack of documents. Remembering how happy he looked holding the camera a few days ago, Serafina temporarily sighed in relief. She hit the power button to see what he had filmed. A video popped up, accompanied by upbeat music. It was a montage of sceneries from different spots at B University. Blocks of text flashed across the screen intermittently. She kept watching, about to hit pause. "Serafina, there are still lots of students skateboarding in the square. I remember when I first confessed to you, it was right here. You politely rejected me. I went back and emoed all night. Serafina, the library seats are still as competitive as ever. I didn't want to disturb everyone, so I just took a photo from far away. Familiar spot, right? Used to be your favorite. Serafina, this is the path you always took home, and I stood right here, secretly watching you for 4 years." Scene by scene, Serafina felt like she was transported back 6 years to those carefree, youthful days. Recalling that time, recalling Callahan chasing after her back then, an unconscious smile crept onto her lips. The music ended, but the video still had a minute left. She thought it was some secret surprise, and excitedly looked around the room, but Callahan didn't jump out. Filled with confusion, she hit play. After a few frames of black screen, Callahan's face appeared in the center. Seeing his red eyes and exhausted face, a terrible premonition suddenly sparked in Serafina's heart. "Serafina, this year is the 10th year we've known each other, and the 10th year I've had a crush on you. Hard to believe, right? My feelings for you have lasted so long they need to be measured in decades. Honestly, I can barely believe it myself. How many decades do we even get in one life? In these 10 years, 7 were unrequited love, 3 were as husband and wife. Every waking moment, I wanted to walk into your heart. I sacrificed a lot for it, but things rarely go the way we want them to. If you don't like me, you just don't. Even if another 3, 7, or 10 years passed, I couldn't change the fact that you don't love me. So on this memorable day, I made an important decision, to let go of this obsession, and to let you fulfill your devoted love for Valerian. So when you see this tape, I just want to tell you, or rather inform you of one thing. Serafina, we are divorced. A month ago, I signed it, and you signed it too. So starting today, we are both free. I'm leaving. Don't look for me. I wish you and Valerian a happy ending, and I wish for my future life to be wild and free. Word by word, it hit Serafina's ears like thunderclaps in spring. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her pupils dilated to the max, her lips trembling uncontrollably. What did he mean she already signed it? He signed it? They were already divorced? When did she ever sign it? The camera slipped from her hands with a clatter. It knocked over the folder on the table, dropping it right onto her lap. The massive title divorce agreement burned into her eyes. She snatched it up, flipping straight to the last page. One glance, and she saw Callahan's signature. And just a few centimeters away on the left, another name was signed. She was intimately familiar with that handwriting, because it was her own signature. 3 bold, cursive words, Serafina. In a flash, all the tiny details Serafina had previously ignored rushed into her brain. That coincidental meeting at the law firm. That Callahan said he was there for her signature, but he was coming down from upstairs, and Mr. Sterling's office happened to be on the 2nd floor. The time Mr. Sterling asked her to hand over the property division agreement. When Callahan saw her, a flash of panic crossed his face. Every time she came home this past month, the items that went missing all belonged to him. And then there was the layout of the new house. Serafina could basically confirm this was entirely premeditated. Right under her nose, he spun a massive web of lies, quietly got her to sign the divorce papers, and then left all by himself. After piecing together the whole plot, fury and panic simultaneously hijacked Serafina's mind. She grabbed the agreement and the camera, sprinted downstairs, and practically drifted her car all the way to the law firm. She burst into the 2nd floor office and slammed the divorce agreement onto Mr. Sterling's desk. This mutual divorce case. Did you process this, Mr. Sterling? Seeing her frantic, panic-stricken state, Mr. Sterling quickly put down his teacup, grabbed the file, and flipped through it. I did. What's wrong? Serafina's anger peaked, her rationality entirely out the window. Forgetting all professional courtesy, she roared, Callahan's case? Why didn't you tell me beforehand? Mr. Sterling was completely clueless about the drama unfolding and looked utterly bewildered. This case followed all standard procedures. It's already been submitted for review. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Why would I need to tell you beforehand? It has everything to do with me. Why didn't you tell me? Hearing her accusations, Mr. Sterling's jaw literally dropped to the floor. He frantically flipped to the last page to check the female party's name. Serafina. Mr. Callahan's wife was Serafina. Serafina is married? Isn't she single? A massive cloud of confusion enveloped Mr. Sterling's brain, his facial expressions shifting wildly. I had no idea Mr. Callahan was your husband. Haven't you been claiming to be single this whole time? That sentence was like a bucket of ice water, completely extinguishing the raging inferno of Serafina's anger. With logic back online, she realized how unprofessional she was acting and quickly bowed in apology. Mr. Sterling didn't mind the outburst. Instead, he grabbed her hand, eager to hear the juicy gossip behind this mess. But Serafina was in a rush to find Callahan's whereabouts. She was in no mood for story time. Mr. Sterling, I'll explain everything when I have time. But can you please give me Callahan's contact info first? He's completely disappeared. As his representing lawyer, you definitely have a way to reach him. Before leaving, Callahan did indeed leave a number and an address, but as a seasoned, wily veteran of the industry, Mr. Sterling firmly refused. Serafina, you're in the business too. Leaking client information is a breach of ethics. Don't make this hard for me. Mr. Callahan is your husband, after all. Just think hard, you'll definitely figure out how to contact him. Don't panic. Take your time. He's been emotionally stable this whole time. He won't do anything stupid. Mr. Sterling severely overestimated Serafina's capabilities. Despite 3 years of marriage, she possessed exactly 0 contact info for any of Callahan's family or friends. She couldn't even reach his parents. Hell, she didn't even know where his hometown was. She truly, legitimately could not contact him. She started pleading, trying to play the emotional card to sway Mr. Sterling. But no matter how much she talked until her lips were chapped, Mr. Sterling only had one line. No comment. Out of options, Serafina had to settle for second best. She wrote a letter and begged him to forward it to Callahan. By the end of the workday, Mr. Sterling sent a text. Mr. Callahan saw it, but didn't reply. Serafina hurriedly opened WeChat, hoping to shoot Callahan a message, only to find his profile picture had turned gray, displaying deactivated user. He got divorced, and to completely cut her out, he went this far? In their 10th year of knowing each other, Serafina suddenly felt the surreal illusion that she was meeting Callahan for the very first time. After leaving Jingbei, I didn't go home. I didn't tell anyone either. I headed straight to the train station. With no destination in mind, I stood in front of the electronic board, randomly pointed at a city, Dragon City, and bought the earliest bullet train ticket available. This was my first trip post-divorce. Heading south from the north, the temperature gradually climbed. The scenery outside the window became humid and warm. It felt like a reminder that this was a complete, clean break. Arriving in Dragon City, I hauled my luggage out of the station. I didn't know anyone, didn't want to look up tourist guides. I just found a random small inn, dropped my bags, and started wandering the streets. Nobody knew me. Nobody knew I just got a divorce. I ordered a steaming bowl of noodles, sat at a loud, bustling street stall, drank a cold beverage, and suddenly felt a sense of relaxation I had never experienced before. Ding dong. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A message from Mr. Sterling. Bro-in-law, if you're getting a divorce, why didn't you just tell me who you were up front? Man, what a mess. I refused to give Serafina your contact info, and she threw a massive fit. She wrote you a letter and asked me to pass it on. Read it when you have a sec. I wasn't surprised she was pissed. After all, I ninja-looted her signature and bounced like a total boss. But writing me a letter? Now that was unexpected. I clicked open the forwarded document from Mr. Sterling. My eyes went straight to the word count, 8,000 words. I almost laughed out loud. It's just a divorce. Does it warrant an 0-word essay? Is she prepping to publish her memoirs? I bet 80% of it is just complaining about my cold violence and bringing up ancient history. I was eating my noodles in a fantastic mood, and I really didn't want these words to ruin my appetite. So, I closed the document, muted my phone, and went back to aggressively slurping my noodles. Drinking the last drop of soup, it felt like all my lingering resentment had evaporated. Next up, I wandered around the night market, grabbed some skewers, chugged some beer, and chatted up a few random tourists. The divorce thing, it didn't feel like a suffocating weight anymore. Instead, it felt like I had just taken off a lead vest. Back at the hotel that night, I thought about it and decided to shoot Mr. Sterling a reply. Thanks. I sent that ridiculously long document back to him, but added a few lines of my own. TLDR, already divorced. Do not disturb. Sent. Then I tossed my phone aside. If she really had something to say, shouldn't she have said it during our 3 years of marriage? Why try to explain now? The current me has absolutely zero energy to attend her remedial classes. She wanted freedom. I gave it to her. I want peace, and I hope she gives it to me. Serafina clutched her head, desperately scanning her memories, trying to figure out exactly where the glitch in the matrix occurred. Past events surfaced one by one, finally stopping at moving day. While she and Alara were running up and down the stairs, Valerian and Callahan seemed to have been alone for a bit. But rewinding further, that was the 9th day of the cooling-off period. Even if Valerian accidentally spilled some tea, Callahan wouldn't have preemptively planned a divorce. The origin point could only be their encounter at the law firm, when he claimed he was getting her to sign property papers. Remembering what happened the day before that, Serafina's face instantly drained of all color. Realizing that Callahan had accidentally found that photo album, Serafina suffered through a sleepless night. All night long, her brain played a highlight reel of everything that happened over the years. If for the first dozen years she was chasing Valerian, then for the 3 years after he got married, she was learning to let him go. The moment he married his ex-wife, she decided to strictly treat him as a younger brother. As for Callahan, who had been chasing her non-stop, Serafina initially just saw him as a friend. Perhaps harboring the same agony of unrequited love, she always felt a sense of guilt towards him. That guilt stretched on for many years, until 3 years ago when they reunited. At first glance, she knew he still wasn't over her. So, during a long period of being badgered about marriage, she constantly debated one thing. Should she listen to her parents and settle down with a stranger from a blind date, or accept Callahan and give him a chance? In the end, she figured that marrying him would at least save him from the misery she went through. Young Serafina genuinely thought fulfilling his wish would erase the despair of his unrequited love. But she didn't know back then. Sometimes, getting what you want but not what you truly hoped for is a much harder ending to swallow than never getting it at all. And fulfilling someone's wish is never easy. On one side was the abyss of losing her first love. On the other was the impending fortress of marriage. She was bouncing between both sides, practically tearing herself in half. On the verge of a breakdown, she proposed the hidden marriage idea. Callahan agreed without a second thought. Serafina entered the marriage in a state of sheer cluelessness, not knowing how to forget someone, and definitely not knowing how to manage a marriage. In their 3 years of marriage, she rarely contacted Valerian. She only saw him occasionally at group dinners. Those group photos? She dumped all of them into that album. In her daily routine, she was learning to slowly drop her obsession. But letting go isn't a walk in the park. Out of sheer habit, her eyes would unconsciously lock onto him. Her emotions would involuntarily fluctuate because of him, especially when she found out he was divorced. She desperately wanted him to escape his misery and start a new life. That's why she bent over backward to help him. After all, it was someone she truly loved once. Even knowing it was impossible between them, she still hoped the rest of his life would be smooth sailing. But these were all just thoughts inside Serafina's head. She never verbalized them to anyone. They say a secret crush is a one-person show. She thought she hid it flawlessly. She forgot that Callahan was also playing the secret crush game with her, so he could easily see right through her. She only realized her cover was blown after she lost him. When the truth was fully exposed, her anger wasn't just because she was tricked into a divorce. She was furious that he handed down a death sentence without even asking her. furious that he vanished without a trace, leaving so ruthlessly. Furious that he didn't even give her a chance to explain. But mostly, she was furious at herself. Why didn't she notice the red flags sooner? Why was it her default setting to ignore him? Why didn't she fulfill her duties as a wife? And most of all, she was furious. She didn't realize Callahan's true position in her heart sooner. Over 1,000 days and nights of living together, she had long gotten used to him being by her side. Even when Valerian got divorced, she never, ever entertained the thought of divorcing Callahan. Because from the day she got that marriage certificate, she locked in one fact: she was going to spend the rest of her life holding Callahan's hand. On the third day of Callahan's disappearance, Serafina still couldn't reach him. Time mercilessly ticked away. The panic in her heart grew heavier by the minute. Valerian had reached out to her several times these past few days, but she blew him off every time. So when he finally showed up at her door and saw her looking like a literal zombie, he was terrified. His eyes were full of worry. "Sister Serafina, what happened?" Seeing Valerian standing in front of her right now, Serafina's emotions were a tangled mess. She had already converted her romantic love for him into familial love. She just never found the right time to say it. But after Callahan completely vanished due to misunderstanding their dynamic, she couldn't delay it anymore. She had to clear the air. "Valerian, I've been trying to reach Callahan lately." "Brother Callahan? What's wrong with him?" Seeing the genuine concern on Valerian's face, Serafina's guilt doubled. "He disappeared. I can't find him." "Why would he suddenly disappear? Is it because of the divorce? Something to do with his ex-wife?" "It is because of the divorce. And it does have something to do with his ex-wife. Actually, more accurately, it has to do with me." Valerian looked even more confused. Seeing his baffled face, Serafina gathered her courage and dropped the bomb. "I am Callahan's ex-wife. We got married 3 years ago. I kept it a secret from you all these years. I'm sorry, Valerian." The news hit Valerian like a sledgehammer. He petrified on the spot. So those weird spidey senses he used to get weren't just his imagination. He suddenly understood everything, but was still struggling to accept this reality. He asked, his voice breaking, "Why did you hide it? Was that fair to Brother Callahan?" Serafina was rendered speechless, having no idea how to explain the spaghetti coat of emotions in her head. Her silence only agitated Valerian further. Thinking back to his last conversation with Callahan, his heart flooded with guilt and regret. If he had known Brother Callahan's wife was Serafina, he would have instantly crushed any inappropriate thoughts he had. And he definitely wouldn't have trauma-dumped his own divorce story onto him. Realizing he acted as the catalyst that sped up their marriage's destruction, even if unintentionally, Valerian felt agonizingly painful. "The person you should be apologizing to isn't me. It's Brother Callahan." "I know, but after the divorce, he just vanished. I literally can't find him." Hearing this, Valerian knew immediately. Callahan's heart was completely dead. He felt even worse. Nobody understood Callahan's feelings better than him right now. A person can't just vanish into thin air. If you have absolutely no way to contact Brother Callahan, it just proves you never put him in your heart to begin with. That single sentence mercilessly ripped off the band-aid, exposing the bloody truth and sending a dense, throbbing pain straight into Serafina's heart. She dropped her head in defeat, an unbearable sting in her nose. "These past 3 years, I failed him. I ignored his efforts. I ignored his feelings." By the time she finished speaking, her voice was choking with sobs. Valerian was finally out of words. He turned around silently and walked away with heavy steps. Watching his retreating back, the grief and regret in Serafina's heart swelled. Everything reaching this disastrous point was entirely her fault, yet she managed to drag 2 innocent people into the crossfire. She felt deeply ashamed, choking on regret. On the 7th day of Callahan's disappearance, Serafina was backed into a corner. Standing at the edge of the cliff with nowhere left to retreat, she actually snapped back to reality. Although the divorce cooling-off period was over, the paperwork wasn't. Whether to officially get the divorce certificate or to file a lawsuit, Callahan had to come back. Figuring this out, Serafina, who had been wallowing in despair, got her groove back. She canceled her leave. The very first thing she did upon returning to the firm was find Mr. Sterling. Over the past few days, Mr. Sterling had forwarded countless messages for her. Seeing her looking so haggard and emaciated, he felt a bit of pity. He was just about to offer some words of comfort when she beat him to the punch, her tone fully stabilized. "Mr. Sterling, please tell him I agreed to the divorce. Tell him to come back and get the certificate." Hearing this, Mr. Sterling almost spat out his tea. "You're just agreeing to it? Not even going to try to save it? You were married for 3 years. He refuses to communicate with me. What else can I do? I can only grant his wish. It's not like we can drag this to court, right?" Mr. Sterling sighed heavily, shaking his head in defeat. "If that's the case, I'll inform Mr. Callahan." "Serafina, don't be too sad." Serafina didn't say anything else. She turned and went back to her office. Sitting in her chair, her tightly wound body finally relaxed a fraction. Her brain was already plotting her next move. Truth is, she had absolutely zero intention of actually getting a divorce. Telling Mr. Sterling that was just a bait and switch to get Callahan to meet her face to face. As long as he returned to Jingbei, she'd have a chance to explain. He loved her for 10 years. As long as she cleared up the misunderstandings, they could definitely start over, right? Mr. Sterling's message came in. Callahan was currently sunbathing on a beach. In a little over a week, I had hopped through 2 or 3 cities, completely leaving the annoying divorce drama in the rearview mirror. When I saw Serafina's reply via WeChat, I agreed to divorce. My heart didn't breathe a sigh of relief. Instead, a wave of suspicion hit me. Hasn't she been harassing me non-stop for the past few days? Writing essays, sending messages? Why suddenly agree? Is she plotting some new twisted scheme? Just to be safe, I messaged Mr. Sterling to confirm if the process was officially done. He replied instantly. After the cooling-off period ends, both parties must personally go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to officially register the divorce. Otherwise, the agreement is invalid and you'll have to settle it in court. Seeing that, I was absolutely speechless. I literally just wanted divorce. Why is this so hard? Is the universe actively trying to stop me from escaping this misery? I sat on the edge of the bed, let out a massive sigh, stared at the ceiling, and gave 2 cold laughs. I rolled out of bed, slapped on my sunglasses, and silently started packing. The Dragon City tour had to hit pause for now. The next morning at 10 a.m., I boarded a flight back to Jingbei. The moment the plane landed, I felt like I was being dragged back to reality. At the arrival's gate, Thorn was holding his phone up like a human GPS beacon, standing on his tiptoes looking around the crowd. The second he saw me, his eyes almost popped out of his skull. "Holy crap, Callahan, how did you get so tan?" I twitched the corner of my mouth and gave him a lazy reply. "This isn't tan. This is called a healthy wheat complexion." He laughed his ass off at my joke, clapping me on the shoulder. All right. Seeing you still have the mood to joke around means I can stop worrying." Honestly, my mood was light years better than it was a month ago. In the car, I told him some funny travel stories. Suddenly, he popped the question, "Did Serafina really agree to the divorce?" My hand paused. I looked into the rearview mirror at my own eyes, which held 0 warmth, and gave a faint nod. "The cooling-off period is over. It doesn't matter if she agrees or not. If she pulls a fast one and backs out, I'm ready to take her to court. This thing has to end." Thorn looked at me with a bit of worry. "But a lawsuit drags on forever. You can't keep stalling," I sneered. "Yeah, that's exactly why I flew straight back. Best case scenario, a peaceful resolution." I paused. "But if she's still stubbornly holding on, I'll play her game till the end, because this time I am absolutely severing ties with her." Learning from Mr. Sterling that I was back in town, Serafina immediately tried to set up a meeting. I refused. Didn't want to see her. Didn't need to see her. To me, this divorce needs to be a clean, absolute surgical strike. Her little playing hard to get tricks lost their effect on me ages ago, but I also knew she wouldn't let it go that easily. Sure enough, Mr. Sterling told me she spent the last few days obsessively rereading the divorce agreement and the property settlement. She even went to the old house, noted the layout, and bought exact replicas of everything to recreate the vibe. She probably really thought I would come back to her. I couldn't be bothered with her futile efforts. Days ticked by, and near the end of September, I finally decided to schedule a meetup. Location, right outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. I was done playing games. She showed up, empty-handed. The second I saw her, I knew her "I agreed to divorce" text was 100% cap. Just as I expected. I wasn't even mad. I actually felt like laughing at her final desperate struggle. I spoke, my voice devoid of any temperature. "You agreed to divorce, yet you brought nothing. Is this your version of sincerity?" She didn't speak, just stared dead at me, probably trying to dig up some trace of emotion on my face to comfort herself. Well, sorry to disappoint. I looked better than I did before the divorce. Even I felt my complexion had improved. A life without her by my side was when I finally started living like a human being. Turns out, I was the only one suffering in this marriage. She finally spoke, her voice low. "Can we talk, Callahan?" I smiled, replying with total calm. "Sure, after we get the divorce certificate, I will entertain literally any topic you want." The second those words left my mouth, the last shred of hope on her face shattered into dust. Her voice went hoarse, clearly struggling to suppress some intense emotion. "I didn't bring my ID. Come back with me to get it, please?" I didn't even bother pretending to hesitate. Flat-out rejection. "Go get it yourself. I'll wait here." But she refused to die on this hill. She whipped out another excuse. "A lot of things in the house were put away by you. I don't know where they are. It'll take me forever to find them." She wasn't lying about that. I'm not a highly organized guy. I leave stuff everywhere. It's a hassle, but I was still on guard. I didn't say much, just looked down and texted Thorn, sharing my live location with him. "Fine," I said, sounding too lazy to care. "I'll go with you." She drove. I sat in the passenger seat. Neither of us said a word. I watched the streets zooming past outside the window while she looked like she was marinating in her memories. After a bit, she tried to break the ice. "Where did you go these past few days?" I kept my eyes glued to the road ahead, my voice ice cold. "We're divorcing. Not really your business anymore, is it?" That clearly stung. I didn't even glance at her. I just heard her whisper, "We only finished the cooling-off period. We aren't officially divorced yet. If we don't process the paperwork within 30 days, the application expires." I was waiting for her to drop that line. "I wasn't slacking off these past few days," I sneered. "I've been chewing on legal codes every day. I've studied every single procedure and loophole in the marriage laws." She thought she could use that rule to pressure me? So naive. I cut her off entirely, too lazy to fall into her logic traps. With a cold laugh, I said, "Don't trouble yourself with giving me a crash course on marriage law, Lawyer Lou. I'm actually more curious. You don't even like me, so why are you threatening me with not divorcing?" Are you not satisfied with my property settlement? If you want to leave me with nothing, I'm fine with that. Right as we hit a red light, Serafina stopped the car. She turned to look at me with a heavy, intense gaze. I am not dissatisfied, she said slowly but firmly. If you absolutely insist on divorcing, I'm willing to walk away with nothing. I'm not trying to threaten you either. I just have a lot of things I don't understand. I'm just not reconciled with this. I froze for a second, a wave of surprise washing over me. She actually used the phrase not reconciled to describe her mood right now? I gave a cold laugh, my tone still flat. What are you not reconciled with? That you got divorced without knowing the truth? Or because this time you weren't the one to initiate the breakup, but me, so your ego took a hit? Neither. Callahan. I heard her give a soft laugh, but it didn't hold a single ounce of relief. It sounded more like exhaustion and self-mockery after suppressing herself for too long. I'm not reconciled with being misunderstood by you. I'm not reconciled that you won't give me even a single chance. I'm not reconciled with drawing a permanent line between us. Suddenly, I had no idea how to reply. What exactly did she mean? Didn't she like Valerian? Hadn't she had a crush on him for years? This marriage from the very start was just a pit stop for her to run away from her old flame. But her tone right now, why did it give me the illusion that she truly, genuinely didn't want to lose me? Right then, she spoke again. Callahan, I watched the video you left at the house. I know why you decided to leave. It's because you think I still like Valerian, right? I stared at the red light ahead and asked quietly, am I wrong? She didn't immediately shoot back. After a moment of silence, she whispered, I'm sorry. I should have explained things to you a long time ago, but I kept dragging my feet, kept waiting, letting you misunderstand, letting you suffer for so long. Truly, it's all my fault. Her apology caught me off guard. But honestly, at this point, I really didn't want to hear her belated TED Talk. I just wanted it to be over. You did fail me. I looked at her side profile and said calmly, so if you really want to make it up to me, then be quick and clean about it. Finish the divorce procedures with me. The second you sign that paper, I will forgive every single mistake you made. When I said that, she completely petrified. The little bit of light in her eyes instantly died out. She looked almost in agony, but I didn't say anything else. There's no point in us running in circles anymore. An asymmetrical marriage? I have absolutely zero desire to keep dragging it out. Suddenly, she whispered, but I don't want a divorce. I froze, turned my head to look at her. I even rubbed my eyes, trying to figure out if my ears were hallucinating. What, Callahan? I'm asking you to stay. She looked at me, her voice so low it was almost inaudible. Can you please give me one more chance? My reflex was to frown. In that second, I genuinely suspected she was setting a trap. She was never the type to bow her head and beg. This sudden change was giving me massive red flags. I stared at her face for a long time, before finally voicing the question that had been crushing my chest. You were heartbroken over him for 3 years and couldn't snap out of it. I stubbornly loved you for 3 years, and you never wavered once. This marriage, from start to finish, I was just playing myself. You never loved me. So I asked for a divorce just to correct that rash, stupid mistake. Now Valerian is divorced too, and he's interested in you. Logically, you should be popping champagne to support my decision. Early release. Then you can openly chase your true love, right? No. She gently shook her head. Her eyes were suddenly very bright, looking at me with the same fierce determination I used to have when I looked at her. From the day Valerian got married, I told myself he was only a younger brother. The reason I married you was because I wanted to forget him. Not because I'd just randomly marry anyone if he wouldn't have me. Marrying you was never a mistake to me. I truly wanted to spend the rest of my life with you. Knowing Serafina for so many years, this was the absolute first time I heard her say something so solemn it practically sounded like a confession. But I'm not that naive idiot who would swoon over a few sweet words anymore. 10 years. 10 whole years. I treated her like the light of my life, but that light never once illuminated me. Now she suddenly talks about spending the rest of her life with me? The funny thing is, if she had said this back then, I probably would have cried tears of joy. But now, I just feel exhausted. I closed my eyes, refusing to look at those burning eyes of hers that seemed to be ignited by some desperate hope. My tone was as steady as I could make it, but laced with a coldness even I could hear. You say these things. I paused, opened my eyes to meet her gaze, and asked blankly, do you even believe them yourself? I never expected her to say those words. I will prove that everything I say is true. Callahan, just give me one more chance, okay? Her voice sounded so sincere, but I couldn't muster even half an ounce of emotion to be moved. It wasn't that I was cold-blooded. It was that I was sick and tired of hearing these hollow promises. The car slowly pulled into the underground garage and parked. I unbuckled my seatbelt, yanked the door open, and dropped one emotionless sentence. Put the divorce certificate in my hand, then you can prove whatever you want. After saying that, I didn't even check her reaction. I walked straight toward the elevator. She followed behind me, silent. But I could feel her suppressed emotions, a suffocating sadness slowly permeating the quiet air. I didn't look back. I only had one thought in my head. End this quickly. Going up the elevator, I stood in the corner watching the numbers tick up. Every floor felt like a countdown to freedom. The doors opened. I walked to the apartment door, punched in the passcode. Ding, the door unlocked. I walked in with my head down, hesitating if I should swap my shoes. But my eyes were instantly drawn to a pair of little bare slippers in the shoe cabinet. Identical. They were the exact ones I used to wear at the old house. But I remembered vividly The day I left, I threw them in the trash. I frowned, looked up, and scanned the entire living room. I was stunned. This wasn't my home, but it looked exactly like my home. The pattern on the curtains, the style of the teacups, the arrangement of the cabinets, even that wedding photo in the living room. A 1-1 replica of the old house. It was as if someone had taken the house from my memory and painstakingly rebuilt it frame by frame, just to trick me into thinking nothing had changed. Why did you decorate the house like this? And where did you even buy all these matching items? I finally spoke, my voice full of confusion and a bit of defensiveness. She stood behind me, her tone slow but stubborn. I always thought you would move in with me to start a new life. I never expected you were planning to leave all along, to just dump me here alone. If I didn't decorate the house like this, I'd feel like I had no home left. I didn't turn around, kept staring at the wedding photo, she continued. As for these things, they weren't that hard to find. It just took a bit more effort. Just directed your effort in the wrong place, I thought. I didn't say anything else, and I had zero mood to watch her act out a melodrama. Didn't even bother changing my shoes. Just took a long stride inside. Great, I said. This makes it easier for me to dig through. Get the paperwork fast, divorce fast, saves time. I know that was harsh, but I couldn't control myself, because she finally needed a taste of what I had to swallow every single day for the past 3 years. I could feel her clenching her fists dead tight behind me, fighting to hold back her emotions. But so what? She finally gets it. I'm not naturally submissive, and I'm definitely not someone without a temper. For 3 years, I acted the part of an obedient husband flawlessly. Gentle, considerate, no anger. But who knew that was just the disguise of my endless compromises? It's not that I couldn't say mean things, I just was afraid of hurting her. But now I finally realized. My silence, my backing down, my tolerance, in her eyes were just the baseline standard. She never accommodated me. Even when I was covered in bruises, she still sprinkled salt on my wounds. And now she says she wants to salvage this? Yeah, I really don't buy it anymore. In that moment, I saw her freeze in place, her face pale, looking like someone just shoved a knife into her chest. She didn't say a word, but I knew she finally understood. Every word I said was a blade. No sugarcoating, no mercy, stabbing straight into her heart. But I felt no guilt, because this pain was the exact fruit of the seeds she sowed herself. This was karma. It only took me 10 minutes to dig out all the necessary documents. With my pre-prepped materials and the experience I gained over the years, I matched everything up lightning fast. As efficient as processing standard office paperwork, I shoved the items into a folder and walked out of the room, only to see her slumped by the doorway, face pale, eyes unfocused. I narrowed my eyes. What kind of act is she pulling now? Is she trying to fake an illness to stall the divorce? I walked up to her, my guard raised to max level, my voice practically dripping with suspicion. Feeling unwell, I admit. In that split second, my tone was freezing cold. It sounded more like I was interrogating a suspect than showing concern. She obviously heard it too. She just shook her head, forced herself to stand up, and squeezed out a smile. I'm fine, let's go. Seeing her capable of moving, I relaxed a bit, turned around and headed out. We didn't speak on the way. I kept looking at my watch, doing mental math to make sure we didn't miss the operating hours. The moment we reached the Civil Affairs Bureau, I actually initiated contact for the first time. I grabbed her hand and practically sprinted upstairs. Not for any romantic reason, just wanted to speedrun this process. End it fast, get unchained. Walking through those doors, my mind involuntarily flashed back to 3 years ago, the day we got married. I also grabbed her hand just like this, terrified she'd back out. Held it tight, walked fast. I was genuinely scared she'd run away and kill our relationship before it even started. Who would have thought that 3 years later, we'd be doing the exact same sprint for a divorce? The registration hall was packed with couples sporting all sorts of expressions. Some were anxious, some were cold, some had red, swollen eyes, and us? We were probably the quietest pair of all. She didn't speak. I didn't speak. But I knew clearly, from her eyes that absolutely refused to look directly at me, I couldn't read a single trace of nostalgia. Good. She finally figured it out too. The sooner you let go of someone who needs to be let go, the better. By the time the paperwork was done, it was getting dark. I looked at the divorce certificate in my hand. It felt like a 3-ton boulder had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt so light, even she started looking a bit more pleasant to the eyes. I shook my wrist and couldn't help but laugh. Thanks for taking care of me these past few years, or even now. Bye-bye. I said my piece and turned to leave. No looking back. But I barely took one step before my wrist was snatched. Her voice sounded behind me, calm, yet laced with stubbornness. Who said we're even? I looked at the divorce certificate in my hand, then at her face. A massive question mark popped into my head. What new trick is this woman trying to pull? The law literally declared us divorced. How are we not even? Let me remind you. My voice dripped with sarcasm, hoping she'd finally take the hint. Back in college, our relationship wasn't exactly close, and it certainly wasn't deep enough to brag about. She didn't deny it. She even smiled like she expected me to say that. I really wasn't very enthusiastic about you back then. But who told you to keep pestering me and refusing to let go? I froze. I didn't expect her to bring up me chasing her at a time like this. Especially that chapter of youth I had mentally replayed to death. She just summarized it as pestering her and refusing to let go. My ears got a little hot. I coughed and looked away. That's ancient history. Is there a point in bringing it up now? Not really, she shrugged. Her tone so relaxed it threw me off balance. Then let's talk about something recent. Recent? I frowned, staring at her warily. What do you want to talk about? She looked at me at her own leisurely pace. Her eyes reflected my current, heavily guarded expression. Then she suddenly smiled. Her voice was even softer than before, yet it carried an inexplicable seriousness. Didn't you say once the divorce was official, the past is wiped clean, and you'd entertain literally whatever I wanted to talk about? Right. I think I did say that, but heavens above, I only said it to pressure her into signing the papers fast. I had zero genuine intention of opening my heart for a fireside chat. Who gets their divorce certificate and thinks, ah yes, the perfect time to sit down with my ex-wife for a deep, emotional conversation? Shouldn't normal people find their bros, get drunk to celebrate their rebirth, instantly block the ex, and start living their best single life? Unfortunately, before I could even backtrack, she relentlessly blocked my exit. Her tone was so righteous it gave me the creeps. Before, you tricked me into signing the papers and vanished without a word. Then you changed all your contact info. If I let you walk away today, what if you pull another disappearing act? Where am I supposed to find you to cash in on that promise? Listening to her righteous prosecution, it really felt like being a defendant cross-examined in court. I wanted to act tough and talk back, but somehow a guilty conscience crept up on me. Damn professional advantage. Her lawyer skills made her way too good at twisting words, and she obviously caught my hesitation. She immediately went for the kill. You wanted a divorce. I was reluctant, but I respected your decision in the end, right? I didn't hold you accountable for tricking me, and I didn't cling to you, refusing to let go. I just want to chat. We were classmates for 4 years, husband and wife for 3. Callahan, are you really going to be this heartless to the very end? My heart skipped a beat. She kind of had a point. Plus, the way she was talking to me so softly and humbly right now. I hadn't seen this version of her in years. I briefly lost my resolve and instinctively pulled out my phone. Fine, I'll give you my contact info, but let's set some ground rules. Don't spam me like you did the past few days. Be polite. As for meeting up, maybe another day. Depends on my schedule. As if terrified I'd change my mind, she scanned my QR code at lightning speed. Added successfully. Before the notification chime even finished, she let out a satisfied sigh of relief. She trailed behind me, muttering her terms. Then you have to promise me too. No blocking, no deleting, no read but ignored. You have to keep your promise. My head started pounding. My tone grew impatient. As long as you behave like a normal classmate and don't cross the line, I won't delete you. She finally revealed a satisfied grin. Then, with incredible solemnity, she opened the passenger side door of her car, striking a please get in pose like she was escorting a VIP. I completely ignored her, turned my head and hailed a taxi. I absolutely refused to believe her sudden burst of enthusiasm wasn't hiding some ulterior motive. But I barely took 2 steps before her ghostly sigh floated over from behind. Divorced and you won't even catch a ride? Truly heartless. Goosebumps erupted all over my arms. I practically dove into the taxi without looking back, urging the driver to step on the gas. I was genuinely terrified that if I listened to one more sentence, I'd regret getting the divorce tonight. Arriving at Thorne's place, the second I pushed the door open, 2 party poppers exploded with a bang, scaring me so bad I almost sat on the floor. The whole room was covered in balloons, streamers, cake, and snacks. The TV displayed a massive banner. Celebrating Callahan's return to freedom! I stood frozen, my eyes welling up with heat. Damn, this bro truly understands me. Thorne probably thought I was actually going to cry, so he hurried over, patting my shoulder, cooing at me like a heartbroken teenage girl. Why are you crying on such a joyous day? Swallow those tears. Tonight, we drink till we drop. Celebrating your triumphant return to being yourself. My nose tingled. I really wanted to wipe my snot on his shoulder. You're right. Tonight we drink. Oh ho ho. The guy who hasn't touched a drop of alcohol for 3 years of marriage is talking big. Did you forget who I was before I got married? Callahan 3 cups. Tonight I'm gonna show you that the legend still lives. If I don't drink you under the table, my last name isn't Jiang. That night I got spectacularly, catastrophically drunk. But strangely enough, Serafina didn't make a single cameo in my dreams. It was just me, relaxed, free, zero burdens, staring at the stars on a mountain peak. After the hangover, I slept like a rock. Woke up in the late afternoon. Thorne had already left for work. I grabbed a random bite to eat. Feeling utterly bored sitting in the house, I grabbed a fruit basket and headed out. I had been meaning to wrap up a few chores, and since I had time now, I decided to check them off the list. Hailed a cab and headed straight to the law firm. I wanted to personally thank Mr. Sterling. Over the past 2 months, he hustled hard for my divorce case. Not only did he keep my secret, but he also acted as the mediator between me and Serafina, and even took on the role of my emotional therapist. Although this went way beyond a lawyer's job description, I felt pretty bad about it. The second I walked into his office, his first sentence was, "Bro-in-law, why didn't you tell me the truth back then?" Hearing that bro-in-law, I reflexively corrected him. "Mr. Sterling, just call me Callahan from now on. We're already divorced." Calling me that isn't appropriate. I paused, then added, "Honestly, I didn't mean to hide it from you, but you know we had a hidden marriage. I didn't want to put you in a tough spot." He didn't push it, said he understood, but sighed anyway. He steered the topic back. "You guys were college classmates. Divorcing so abruptly, don't you feel it's a pity? Are you really planning to completely cut off contact?" His question hit me right in the chest. Truth is, before yesterday, I was 100% determined to sever ties cleanly. But her behavior yesterday, I have to admit, it shook me a little. Even ignoring any emotional attachment, I still had to figure out how to explain this to our parents. I definitely need to talk to her a few more times. My parents have fiery tempers. They'll definitely track her down to throw a fit before they calm down. If we don't coordinate beforehand, it'll be a disaster. Never seeing each other again? Yeah, that boundary might need to be relaxed a bit. I sighed softly, shoving those messy thoughts back down, and told Mr. Sterling, we were together for 3 years and never really fought. The divorce was peaceful. We aren't exactly mortal enemies, but we can't go back to the past either. As for future contact, I'm not sure. Let fate decide. My answer was lukewarm. Didn't close the door entirely, didn't promise anything either. He understood and nodded, a faint look of relief flashing across his face. I knew he was secretly worrying about Serafina. Lately, she had looked like she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. There was no way he couldn't see it. After all, she was his protégé. Naturally, he'd be a bit biased. I didn't call him out on it. We chatted casually for a bit longer, then I got up to leave. But the second I opened the door, I saw Serafina standing right there. Scared the living daylights out of me. Mr. Sterling was spooked into a cold sweat too, patting his chest. Why are you lurking outside my office door? She ignored him, staring straight at me. A massive sense of dread bubbled up inside me. Before I came, I specifically checked. She was on leave today. How did she get tipped off? I didn't want to deal with her. My tone was freezing. Move. I have places to be. She stepped aside. I walked out without a microsecond of hesitation. But the moment I stepped out the main entrance, I was dumbfounded. A torrential downpour. The water on the street was almost up to my calves. Standing under the awning with an umbrella, staring at the empty street, my first thought was, I'm doomed. I pulled out my phone to hail a ride, requested for 10 straight minutes. Not a single ghost accepted. The rain kept getting heavier with zero intention of stopping. I checked the weather app. It estimated the rain might turn into a drizzle after 7 p.m. Wait, does that mean I have to stand here for 6 hours? I gave a bitter laugh, thinking, God really has impeccable timing. Need a hand? I turned around. Serafina was standing in the doorway. The rain mist blurred her face, but her eyes held an undeniable, intense concern. I ignored her, pretended I didn't hear a thing. But she has famously thick skin. Completely unfazed by the awkwardness, she just kept talking. The last time it rained this hard was about a year ago, right? You said you wanted to try baking desserts, and ended up smoking out the whole kitchen. Her voice was soft, carried by the rhythm of the rain, hitting my eardrums in waves, like it was drifting over from far away, yet landing with pinpoint accuracy on my heart. I had no choice but to listen. The rain was too heavy, no place to hide, so she just stood there, slowly excavating those memories buried in the cracks of our daily lives. From that rainy day to our first date, from the petty bickering after marriage to my relentless pursuit during college. She spoke so earnestly, as if narrating someone else's story. And I was forced to stand there, drowning in those scenes that were way too familiar. But the more tenderly she reminisced, the more exhausted I felt, because I remembered every single thing she mentioned crystal clear. Yet when I wanted to forget, she acted terrified that I actually would, purposefully using this ancient history to entangle me. I finally couldn't take it anymore. I cut her off. Since you have so much free time, go get your car and make some Uber cash. She froze for a second, then immediately recovered, smiling brightly. Sure, please get in. I didn't say another word, just dove straight into the passenger seat, buckled up, and closed my eyes to pretend to sleep. She actually stayed quiet, didn't say a thing. That made me feel a lot better. Honestly, as long as she wasn't talking, wasn't trying to force me to reminisce, I wasn't too annoyed. The car drove smoothly. I leaned against the seat, listening to the rain drumming against the window, my mind inexplicably calming down. When we arrived, I pulled out my wallet, grabbed a $100 bill, and tossed it over. Thanks for the hard work. Keep the change. She actually smiled and took it. While pocketing the cash, she even joked, happy to be of service. Contact me for your future travel needs. I was too lazy to engage. I was just about to step out when she called my name again. Valerian wants your contact info. Is that okay? Hearing that name, my heart skipped a beat. My brain flashed to the time I secretly added his WeChat, but that account was deleted long ago, so nothing to worry about. I gave a slight nod, though ripples of curiosity spread in my mind. A friend request popped up shortly after. I glanced at it. It was Valerian. Normal default message. I accepted. The next second, under his avatar, user is typing, popped up. I sat in the car, motionless, staring at those little gray words for several seconds. What does he want? Did he see something and wants to confront me? Just as that thought surfaced, his message arrived. Brother Callahan, do you have time tomorrow? I want to meet up and chat. He typed for ages, just to send that one line, but I had no idea how to reply. Valerian is actually a massive paradox to me. He isn't a bad guy. I honestly even felt that, in some ways, he was a much better match for Serafina's ideal type than I was. I admit I was jealous of him, hated myself for not being him. But between the two of us, there was no real conflict. The only link between us, Serafina, had already been severed from my life. Logically, I should politely decline this meeting. But weirdly enough, I kind of wanted to go. I wanted to know what he had to say. Maybe out of curiosity. Maybe out of emotions I couldn't even label myself. I replied sure and sent a question mark, asking for the time and place. A moment later, he sent the details for 3 p.m. tomorrow. Looking at the screen, I had a sudden premonition that I was about to step into an entirely new scenario. But this time, I wasn't opposed to it. Seeing Valerian at the coffee shop, a bizarre, indescribable sense of detachment washed over me. Haven't seen him in a month, and the guy looked like he had withered. Dark circles under his eyes, pale face, his whole sora significantly weakened. I was actually pretty surprised. In the past, he was always sunny, clean, like a little prince adored by the masses. But now he looked like this. Still, I gathered myself and gave him a polite nod. Long time no see. When ordering, we were as awkward as ever. Sitting across from each other, nobody spoke. The air was overwhelmingly quiet. I had to stare at the raindrops on the window. Finally, he broke the heavy silence. "Brother Callahan, the reason I asked you out today. Actually, I wanted to apologize. I'm sorry." I froze for a second, turning to look at him. He looked dead serious, even a bit guilty. I quickly waved my hand, trying to soften my tone. "Nothing happened between us. You don't need to apologize." It was true, we had no beef. He wasn't the one who needed to apologize. But hearing me say that, the guilt in his eyes only deepened. "That day I didn't know you and Sister Serafina were married. I said a lot of things I shouldn't have. I probably hurt you. I'm truly sorry." I finally realized he was talking about the incident at the law firm. He was standing right in front of me, gushing about how much he wished he and his wife were as happy as me, and casually praising Serafina's clean romantic history. It did sting a bit back then, but I didn't blame him. I smiled, trying my best to lighten the mood. "It's 'cause I didn't explain things clearly. I hid it from you first. You just said what you thought was appropriate. I really don't hold it against you." I paused, wanting him to relax, so I added, "Honestly, your words that day actually did me a huge favor. It solidified my decision to get a divorce. You should be happy that I managed to walk away." I said it with complete sincerity. But after hearing it, he lowered his head, his eyes looking a bit red. "Things reaching this point, Sister Serafina and I both share the blame. We failed you." I opened my mouth, wanting to say it wasn't just his fault, but the words got stuck in my throat. I didn't know how to comfort him, especially as he got increasingly emotional. "Brother Callahan, actually, I also wanted to tell you. Sister Serafina and I have talked everything out. From now on, we are strictly just siblings. Can you give her another chance?" Hearing this, I was genuinely dumbfounded. I thought he was going to say something else, but after beating around the bush, he actually circled back to me and Serafina. What shocked me even more was, I thought they would have gotten together ages ago. On the day of the divorce, I fully expected them to naturally couple up. I even mentally prepared myself to see their marriage certificate. And now here he is, trying to persuade me to get back together? "We're already divorced," I couldn't help but say. "Why aren't you guys together?" He kept his head down, silent for a long time before finally speaking. He said he always knew Serafina liked him, but he just pretended not to notice. Later, his own marriage failed and he was badly hurt. It was her who helped him through his darkest hours. He said back then, he thought Serafina still liked him, so he slowly started developing feelings for her too. But as they spent more time together, he realized the light in her eyes from back then was completely gone. She looked at him exactly like an older sister looks at a little brother. Eventually, I realized, he choked up a bit. I hadn't been the special person in her heart for a long time. He said the reason he asked me that question back then was because he genuinely couldn't figure out what she was thinking. He wanted to find some answers from me. But after I found out the truth about your divorce, I realized I was the one who messed up the rhythm of her life. During that time, she was running around like a maniac trying to find you. In her eyes, I saw the exact same look she used to give me years ago. I finally understood she really didn't like me anymore. She had a new life. She had you. She had a home. She just couldn't say it out loud. I feel so incredibly guilty. Listening to him unfold this story piece by piece, I was left speechless. Hearing it to the end, it felt like a massive boulder had been dropped into my heart, stirring up huge waves. I never expected that from Valerian's POV. This was a completely different story. Shocked? Yes, but I didn't entirely believe it was the absolute truth. After all, when it comes to love, only the person drinking the water knows if it's hot or cold. If Serafina truly loved me, would I have been completely 100% oblivious to it? So, facing Valerian's earnest advice and explanations, I stayed silent for a while before replying. Regardless of whether her feelings for you are romantic, familial, or platonic, in my eyes they run vastly deeper than whatever she feels for me, her ex-husband. My decision to divorce her wasn't entirely because of you. It was the accumulation of countless big and small things from the past, which made me clearly see the reality of our marriage. I had completely lost hope. I calmly laid out the facts. Valerian seemed deeply affected. The remaining advice he hadn't yet spoken died on his lips. Our eyes met. I looked at his reddened eyes and sighed softly. At the end of the day, this is a private matter between Serafina and me. You're innocent. You shouldn't have been dragged into this. Now that our divorce is a done deal, even I, the person involved, have let it go and moved on. So what is there for you, a bystander, to still agonize over? Let go of the past and live your own life. Both you and I still have time to start over. Though the conversation ended, Valerian's emotions were far from settled. He sat in his chair, taking a long time to process everything. He finally decoded the hidden meaning behind Callahan's words. What is past is dead. What is present is reborn. In a flash, the dark clouds of guilt suffocating his heart dispersed. He stood up, walked to the private booth next door, and pushed the door open. The room was dead silent. Looking at Serafina leaning back in her chair, not saying a word, he called out softly, "Sister Serafina, are you okay?" Every single word of their conversation had just been piped directly into Serafina's ears. She was definitely not okay. But in front of Valerian, she packed away all her emotions and feigned composure. "I'm fine." Her voice had a slight tremor. Valerian immediately caught it. He lowered his head, sat across from her, and racked his brain for comforting words. "I understand Brother Callahan's feelings. Even though I don't know what happened during your 3 years together, it must have made him very unhappy. That's why he wanted to end it and start fresh. Sister Serafina, since he's let go of the past, you shouldn't obsess over it anymore either." Serafina understood the logic perfectly well, but she also knew that all the pain and despair Callahan felt in their marriage originated from her. She was the villain who caused this ending. What right did she have to talk about letting go? No amount of comfort was going to work on her. She didn't want Valerian to worry about her anymore, so she changed the subject and offered to drive him home. Before parting ways, Valerian asked her one final question. "Sister Serafina, can you let Brother Callahan go? Can you? Can I?" "No," Serafina thought. A melancholic smile appeared on her face, yet her voice carried a trace of absolute resolve. "He chased me for 10 years. Even though I married him, I never placed him in my heart or treated him well. So losing him is exactly the punishment I deserve. 3 years as husband and wife, he became an irreplaceable part of my life. How could I just say let go and drop it? Whether he hates me or resents me, I want to try one more time. Regardless of the ending, I'm just following my heart." Valerian didn't try to stop her. He raised his hand, gave a wave, and showed a genuine smile. "Sister Serafina, thanks for looking out for me all these years. I hope you get the happy ending you want." After saying goodbye to all my friends, I finally shouldered my backpack, ready to embark on that cross-country trip I should have taken ages ago. Thorne drove me to the airport, nagging the entire way like a worried father. "Stay safe out there. Call me if anything happens. If you see good food, fun stuff, or hot girls, snap a pic and send it to me. And if you get tired and can't find a place to crash, just come back. You know my door passcode." Dragging my luggage, I couldn't help but laugh helplessly. "I'm going on a vacation, bro, not fleeing the country as a fugitive. Do we have to make this sound like a life-or-death farewell?" That sentence almost ruined the mood completely. Thorne literally rolled his eyes at me and smacked my arm. "You heartless bastard. Last time you vanished for days and left me on read, I almost filed a missing persons report. Didn't I tell you I replied to you telepathically? You didn't receive it? I receive your BS, that's what." We kept bickering like this until it was time to go through security. A very reluctant goodbye. Just as I cleared security and was walking down the terminal, my phone suddenly vibrated. A text from Thorne. "I just saw someone. Back profile looks exactly like Surfina!" My heart practically jumped out of my chest. I whipped my head around, scanning the crowd. Didn't see that familiar face. I sighed in relief and texted him back. "You probably need glasses." He fired back with absolute certainty. "Highly likely it's her. Be careful." I started feeling a bit uneasy. I didn't tell a single soul about my itinerary for this trip. Didn't even mention the destination. How could she possibly know? To verify, I sent a quick message to Mr. Sterling. "Serafina handed in her resignation the day before yesterday. I don't know where she is." Reading that line, my entire body tensed up. She quit? Then the person Thorne saw couldn't actually be her, right? While I was still calculating if I had left any breadcrumbs that leaked my travel plans, a voice far too familiar suddenly rang out behind me. "Excuse me, sir. Could you step aside, please?" I froze completely, slowly turned my head, and saw Serafina standing right behind me, smiling innocently, her eyes practically sparkling. Callahan, what a coincidence. I had zero patience to play along with her bad acting. Frowning, I asked coldly, "Why are you on this flight?" She replied with a perfectly straight face. "Business trip." I gave a cold laugh, instantly calling her bluff. "Didn't you quit your job?" She didn't panic in the slightest. Instead, she put on an expression of pleasant surprise. "You actually know I resigned? Callahan, are you keeping tabs on me?" I was utterly speechless. I aggressively turned my head away and plopped down into my seat. Then, she sat down right next to me, even had the audacity to confidently wave her boarding pass in my face. "We're seat neighbors." I took a deep breath. "You're stalking me, Lawyer Lou. This is illegal." She blinked, looking completely harmless. "Please provide evidence of my stalking. Otherwise, that's defamation, Callahan." I obviously had no evidence. I could only try to reason with her. "We're divorced. Can't we just live our separate lives? Why do you insist on pestering me?" She lowered her head, her mood visibly dropping. "You promised we'd have a good chat, but you vanished without saying a word again. I was afraid you'd disappear forever this time." My emotions were a chaotic mess. I shot her a glance. This woman, she was always an expert at using this seemingly gentle, yet highly controlling method to force me into compromising. But since she literally chased me onto an airplane, I genuinely couldn't escape. I sighed, turned my head, my tone calm and serious. "You want to chat? Fine. Let's chat right now. I will entertain you. Was it because you saw the photo album that you decided to divorce?" She finally asked the golden question. I wasn't surprised, and I didn't plan on hiding it. Yes and no. I leaned back in my seat, my tone even. I had that thought a long time ago. The album was just the detonator. Even if I didn't see it that day, eventually there would be a day where I couldn't take it anymore. I was telling the truth. That suffocating environment lasted way too long. It was only a matter of time before the fuse blew. She didn't speak. I glanced sideways. Her eyes were lowered, looking almost guilty. I didn't do a good job. If you had so many grievances with me, why didn't you tell me sooner? I chuckled softly, letting my gaze drift out the window. My tone naturally dropped a few degrees. When you liked Valerian, you didn't tell me either. I was just copying you. I chose silence. As soon as the words left my mouth, it was like she got poked with a needle. She frantically tried to explain. I did like him, but that was a long time ago. After we got married, I was truly trying to let it go. I wanted to build a good life with you. I turned my head to look at her slightly panicked face, but couldn't muster an ounce of interest to hear her excuses. I don't care if you were sincere or not, I said, emphasizing every word. I just want you to understand one thing. The past is the past. I don't want to waste any more energy on things that aren't worth it. Do you understand? Her lips moved, but she ultimately didn't say anything else. I pulled my gaze back, closed my eyes, slipped on my sleep mask and headphones, ready to nap. My heart was freakishly quiet. None of those churning, dramatic emotions anymore. The plane broke through the clouds. Leaning against my seat, I could vaguely feel the gaze resting on my face, but I didn't open my eyes. The things I wanted to say, and the things I didn't want to hear, were all securely locked in the past. 2 hours later, we landed in Jiangcheng. I dragged my suitcase toward the exit. Walking toward the taxi queue, from the corner of my eye, I saw her silhouette again. Like a literal ghost. Why are you still following me? I turned around impatiently, my tone icy. I said everything I wanted to say. Are you going to keep pestering me? She, on the other hand, replied at a leisurely pace. We only finished talking about the 3 years of our marriage. There's still the 7 years before that, and the rest of our lives after. We haven't discussed those yet, have we? I gave a cold laugh. You mean the 7 years I had a crush on you? And the rest of our lives where we go our separate ways? What is there to discuss? She looked up at me. Her gaze was calm yet inexplicably burning. That look instantly dragged me back to a night many years ago, in front of the B University library. I blocked her path, face flushed red, and mustered all my courage to confess my feelings. She just smiled and said, "Thank you." The boiling blood in my heart got instantly dumped with ice water. I looked utterly defeated and was just about to walk away when she gave a low chuckle. I thought she was mocking me. It's okay that you don't like me now. The future is uncertain, Serafina. Don't jump to conclusions so early. Back then, I was ridiculously naive, but also incredibly stubborn. And now she actually threw that exact sentence right back at me. The future is uncertain, Callahan. Don't jump to conclusions so early. I froze. Memories from 10 years ago surged up like a tidal wave. Time seemed to have run a massive lap, only to drag me back to the starting line. Only this time, the chaser and the chased had swapped roles. The delayed confession was finally spoken, but I was no longer that boy with the flushed face, desperately hoping for an answer. I lowered my head, avoiding her gaze, yet I couldn't stop that tiny ripple from slowly expanding in the depths of my heart. October in Jiangcheng. The wind finally carried a chill. I dragged my luggage into the hotel lobby, scrolling through my confirmation texts, mentally calculating if this trip could somehow return to being peaceful. But the second I reached the front desk, I saw her again. Serafina. This chain of coincidental encounters was way past the point where coincidence was a valid excuse. In a city this massive, with this many hotels, don't tell me. Another coincidence? I couldn't hold it back. My tone leaked the pent-up anger I was suppressing. She, however, looked cool as a cucumber, even having the nerve to earnestly attribute it to the will of heaven. Coincidences can be split into acts of God and acts of man, Callahan. Bumping into you here. I guess I'm just lucky. I was seriously about to lose my mind over her let nature take its course nonsense. I massaged my temples, forcefully forcing myself to calm down. If we really were fated, we would have made it work a long time ago. We wouldn't have ended up divorced. Stop using fate to scam people, Serafina. She tilted her head and actually smiled. Is it possible that our fate only officially started from the divorce? I gave a cold laugh. I absolutely refused to play verbal gymnastics with her anymore. What exactly do you want so you'll finally leave me alone? I compromised a step. I just wanted to find an exit to this meaningless tug of war. I'm not pestering you. I'm just following fate. She was still stubbornly playing her mystical fate card. Enough. I completely lost my patience. I threw my hands up. You believe in fate so much? Fine. Let's make a bet. Let's see if your will of heaven is actually effective. She paused. Bet on what? I checked the time. No phones. I'll take $100 in cash. We both take the 2 buses parked right outside, heading in opposite directions. If you find me before midnight, you win. What's the prize if I find you? Her eyes lit up. I smirked. Was waiting for her to ask that. The loser has to grant the winner one request. Anything at all. But it must be fulfilled. She nodded, surprisingly decisive. If I win, you have to give me one chance to pursue you again. I sighed in relief. She didn't say the word remarry, but immediately I realized something was wrong. Looking at her hyper-confident expression, I inexplicably felt a wave of anxiety. You're that confident? She didn't answer. She just handed her phone to me, stared straight into my eyes, and said word by word, "Aren't you going to ask what I'll make you do? I don't need to know." She turned and waved her hand. "Because I will win." Where the hell is this woman getting her confidence? I was pretty familiar with Jiangcheng's public transit system. The last bus runs at 9 p.m. If she actually manages to find me, then I guess I really have to consider if heaven hasn't given up on us yet. I chose the northbound route. wound my way through several districts, and finally got off at a completely deserted terminal station. Found a random 24-hour convenience store, picked a corner, and sat down. Watched the clock slowly tick away, but I couldn't sit still. Approaching 11 p.m., I felt uneasy, so I hailed a cab and headed straight back to the hotel. The room card in my hand read 15:08, but I hesitated. I didn't go upstairs immediately. I waited until exactly 11:50 p.m. before taking the elevator up. The lighting in the 15th floor hallway was dim and yellow. I approached the door to 15:08, just about to pull out my card, when I heard the soft rustle of fabric, and then I saw her. Serafina was standing by my door, looking like she had been waiting for me for an eternity. In that split second, I froze, not because she showed up, but because of the quiet, unwavering determination in her eyes. She didn't speak, just stood there with her hands down, as if she had foreseen this exact moment all along. Looking at her, my brain suddenly flashed back to the scene of me chasing her 10 years ago.